Hey everybody, today I'm doing a bridal video. So everything from the skin prep to the makeup and the hair. FYI, I have no immediate wedding plans. I am not engaged and I'm definitely not pregnant, just to make that very clear. But if I were getting married tomorrow, hypothetically, then this is exactly what I would do. It's just a fun video idea. If you are new around here, then don't forget to hit subscribe and I hope you enjoy. Beautiful skin, I think, is a crucial part of any look. So let's start with some skin prep. On the day of a really big event, I like to use a very, very gentle exfoliant. And a good option is the Dermalogica Daily Microfoliant. This is kind of a powder, a rice powder, that you mix with some water and then it turns into a paste so that you can massage it on the skin. I like this one because it smooths any kind of flakiness or surface texture, but it's not that kind of exfoliant that's really going to irritate your skin or cause the skin to peel. This is a really important part of skin prep because, as you guys know, pigmentation and redness, that can be quite easily concealed. But flaky areas or textured areas of skin, that's better addressed in the skincare. Makeup can actually exacerbate the appearance of textured areas. So on this day, I had some flaky areas around my nose and also some congestion on my forehead. And the Daily Microfoliant really helped to just kind of create a smoother, brighter canvas for my makeup. Rinse off that exfoliant and then you can move on to your moisturizer or your serum or your oil or whatever you guys choose to implement in your skincare routine. Also, this might sound really obvious, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Skin prep is key, but beautiful skin isn't created on that day. It's created the months leading up to the day, if you know what I mean. So find a routine that works for you and be consistent with it, and maybe don't try new things about 2 weeks out from a wedding, because if you're anything like me, you'll get some sort of incurable rash on your face. Hey, that's happened before. Pop on a thick layer of lip balm so that by the time you finish the hair and the makeup, then your lips are not chapped and peeling. Kidding! My lips are always chapped and peeling, but a girl can try. Onto the hair. I took this whole hypothetical wedding challenge so seriously that honestly I deliberated on the hair for like a week. Like, I kind of prefer me with my hair down, but then how often do you get to wear an updo? But also, if I got curls and my hair was down, would the curls actually last? You guys, I had a legit crisis about this. I ended up going with a tasseled crown braid, which I chose because A, I saw it on Pinterest, duh. And B, I've been practicing crown braids for years and I just cannot do it. It is not in my destiny to learn to crown braid. Anyways, Dane at Edwards & Co. did my hair. He's brilliant, by the way, amazing. So after Dane curled and texturized my hair, he started a Dutch braid behind my ear. And this braid extended around the entire head like a crown, hence the name crown braid. And then the tail of the braid was tucked under. So you couldn't quite see where it started or where it ended. I think that's brilliant. There are YouTube tutorials on crown braids, but prepare for tears of frustration, and I speak from personal experience. Dane did a whole lot of, pulling apart the braids and pulling out little pieces to frame the face. And I even encouraged him to cut the pieces if it helped to make the style perfect. That is how committed I am to YouTube. So here is the final style. I adore it. I adore it. You know, is it the most classic style? Will it be trendy in 50 years? I honestly don't know. All I know is that it lasted 3 whole days and I feel like a damn princess. On that note, sparkle. So my friend Contessa runs a store called Tessarella and they make beautiful jewelry and embellished hair accessories. So she came by and popped some jewel pins into the crown, and some of these are pearls and some of them are reflective crystals, and we put them in so that the placement kind of looked a bit randomized. Dude, I have a crown and my crown has jewels. Are you kidding me? I was pretty happy. Enough blabbing, let's move on to the makeup. I popped on some eye masks because it's my hypothetical wedding and I deserve it. I keep these in the fridge so they're really cold and refreshing and they depuff the eye area. I am starting with the eyes today because there could be some eyeshadow fallout, and we tend to lean our hands on our face when we're doing eyeliner and such. So for the most flawless base, I always try to do it after the eyes. Prime the eyes however you like to do that. I'm also adding a tiny bit of concealer just to knock back any of the veins on my eyelid or underneath the brow. And then we're dipping into some matte shadows to do some sculpting the eye. I was quite careful here not to select shadows that are super, super warm. If that's what you love, then by all means, go right ahead. But I think a very sculpted, warm eye, to me, it kind of reads like 2010 decade. It's trendy. I tried to pick the greige and the cooler brown tones that read a little more classic, to me, at least. For the lid, I went with a foiled pale champagne. So overall, I wanted this eye to look really light and fresh, and I feel like the champagne achieves that quite nicely. I do think that you can go quite smoky with a bridal eye, or you can go on the other side of the spectrum and go quite minimal, and they all can look very chic and classic. It's just personal preference. To make those highlights pop even further, I took my most reflective eyeshadow, which is of course MAC Nylon, and dusted around the tear duct and also onto the very ball of the eyelid. This is a really subtle effect, but it just gives an extra oomph, a bit of extra dimension. I love it. I will do eyeliner, but keeping it really soft so that it doesn't take away from the gorgeous lightness of this eye. My most long wearing eyeliner is definitely, hands down, the Makeup Geek gel liner. This stuff, actually difficult to remove. So I'm taking the gel on a tiny push brush and wiggling the product at the base of the lashes. And that way we get a sort of a soft, hazy liner effect. There is a wing going on here, but it's the most delicate, fine wing that elongates the eye slightly, but it's not at all in your face. You'd have to go looking for it to see it. And of course, we're tight lining too. Just really making sure to get all those little bits of skin between the lashes. That is my makeup pet peeve. False lashes are something that I would recommend for bridal makeup. More specifically, individual lashes. I think that they tend to be a little bit more comfortable than a strip lash. And also you don't have to worry about maybe having a teary moment and then the inner corner of your lash band starts to pop off. That is the bane of my existence. So I've used a combination of short, medium, and long individuals. And this way you can kind of customize a lash shape that flatters your eyes. So for me, they're a little bit bushier at the outer corners, and then they taper to a really fine lash in towards the inner lash line. Back to the face, and I'm priming the T-zone with a smoothing primer. You can totally mix and match primers based on your skin type. So for example, you could use a hydrating primer on the cheeks and then a mattifying primer down the T-zone, etc., whatever combo you like. It's your wedding. You have permission to be extra. For foundation, I'm using my all-time favorite, a mix of the Armani Luminous Silk and the Maestro Glow. So Luminous Silk is the most photogenic foundation I've ever encountered. So definitely worth getting a sample of that one to try. Maestro Glow does have an SPF, and we're typically told to avoid SPF because it flashes back. Now, without getting too technical here, Maestro Glow has a chemical sunscreen, and that's not inherently a problem. It's the physical sunscreens that reflect light and cause a white cast. So the ingredients to look out for are titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. Probably a good practice to take your foundation down your neck so that the shade blends into the rest of the body, although to be honest, I would probably get a spray tan if I were actually getting married tomorrow. Not because I really want to be tan, but because my body is such a strange patchwork of shades. I think I would need a professional to even all this out. Warning, this is going to sound like a lot of concealers, but they all do very, very different things, said the makeup addict. So under the eyes, I'm using the Tarte Shape Tape. Very long wearing, and it pictures beautifully. Just really making sure that all those edges are diffused perfectly and really meshing into the foundation. You'll notice that with my concealer and even my foundation earlier actually, I'm using my fingers to really press and blend. You don't really see this a whole lot on YouTube anymore, but when I want a really perfect base, I go back to my fingers because I feel like I have more control with that kind of tactile experience. To bring light to the high planes of the face, I'm using the Armani High Precision Retouch Concealer. It's very, very thin formula. You can be liberal with this and it never wants to get heavy or cakey. Great stuff. And then to spot conceal blemishes and such like that, Kevyn Aucoin Central Skin Enhancer. Still the best spot concealer on the market, IMO, in my opinion. I do have a video where I demonstrate my spot concealing technique. I will link that in the description. To bronze and add a little bit of dimension to the face, I'm using a foundation in a deeper shade. This works perfectly because it blends into the base, it doesn't cause the coverage to lift in areas, and it's not overly orange like some cream bronzers can be. If you do have an oilier skin type, you might want to go for your powder, bronzers, blushes, and highlights if you find that maybe powders last longer on your skin. I selected one of my glossiest highlights, the Marc Jacobs Glow Stick. It's one of those highlights that you can't really see until the light hits it in just the right way and then it beams. It is truly beautiful. So mostly hitting the cheekbones here, and with whatever is left on my finger, I'll kind of take on the Cupid's bow, maybe a little bit on the nose, above the brow. And when you see me here, cranking my head, I'm inspecting the highlight edges to make sure that they are perfectly diffused. Makeup is serious business. Right now I'm super dewy all over, and while I love that look in person, it can look more greasy in photos. So I will set the under eyes, a little bit on the chin, center of the forehead. Again, if you're oily, it might make more sense to just set the entire face with powder all over. Powders to avoid. Okay, in terms of photography, the most common culprit that we hear about is silica-based powders. I have used silica-based powders in photography before without an issue, but if it's your wedding, why take the risk? For blush, I'm going peachy. I do love a peachy blush. Blush is another thing that I think can get washed out in photos. So you might want to apply a little more than you would usually. Now, if you know me, you know I love a brushed up, textured, bushy brow, but I probably wouldn't do that for a wedding. So instead, I pretty much followed my natural shape, filled in any bald patches and elongated the tail a touch. It's essentially an enhancement of what I already have. And I'm using a brow powder here, as opposed to my regular Suku brow pen, because brow pens dry shiny. And when the flash hits it, the color just disappears, and your brows just disappear. It's really inconvenient. To keep the brows in place, I'm using soap. If you put this on a spoolie sparingly, it can be used as a strong hold eyebrow gel of sorts. And okay. Here, I might be brushing up the brows just a little. I couldn't help myself, but I'm practicing restraint. Finishing the lower lash line with some shading, the same matte shades that I used in the socket. So a greige all over the lash line, and then just a little bit of a deeper brown at the outer corners to tie it in with the eyeshadow on top. Hitting both the top and the bottom lashes with some mascara, waterproof. Waterproof mascara is the safest option. I have heard way too many people say, I didn't think I would cry, but then I did. Final step for the eyes, I'm lining the lower waterline with a nude eyeliner. This just makes the eyes look really bright and awake, and I think it looks beautiful in photos. Onto the lips, and even if you're one for nude lipsticks like me, I would recommend going for a color that isn't too nude. You want something with a little bit more saturation and depth so that your lips are still visible in photos. So I like to start with a lip liner all over the lips because lip liner is super long wearing. So even after your lipstick has worn off, you still have a bit of color going on there. I'm topping with a regular lipstick. I know that a lot of people would go for a liquid lipstick kind of formula because they're bulletproof, really long wearing. But to be honest, especially on me, I don't think that they reapply very well. I'd rather go with something more of a creamy regular lipstick formula. Like your last step, spray with some setting spray. It absolutely works to make your makeup last longer. And this look is now complete. I think the two things to keep in mind. A little bit more makeup pictures better. Have you ever done your makeup and you think you look awesome and then you go to take a selfie and for whatever reason, it looks like you're not wearing any makeup at all? That's a thing. Photography tends to dull makeup, so you can go a little bit heavier. And B, classic choices, they're safe. But you know, if you rock an epic wing every day, or you always have a big, warm, smoky eye, disregard the guidelines and you do you. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. I had an absolute ball. Come say hello to me on Instagram because I would love to chat to you there, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye.